Establishment Democrats are currently panicking that Bernie Sanders is slowly inching toward the lead, and that's going to result in what they call the Never Bernie apocalypse. Now, you've heard of the Never Trumpers, right? Back in 2016, a bunch of conservatives said, if Donald Trump is the nominee, we will vote Democrat because we will never support Trump. And many of these people actually voted for Hillary Clinton. Since then, they've been a somewhat small voice, but still popping up from time to time, high-profile former conservatives now seemingly siding with Democrats on literally everything. That's the Never Trump movement. The Never Bernie movement is basically the same. Moderate and establishment Democrat voters who don't want a socialist president, Bernie Sanders, may actually defect to Donald Trump. And guess what? We actually have some numbers to back up how many. It could be as much as 10%. You want to know why this story is so, I guess, funny, is that Bernie or bust is around the same percentage. That if Bernie Sanders doesn't get the nomination, Bernie's supporters might actually vote for Trump, as they did in 2016. It seems the Democrats are between a rock and a hard place, and no matter who gets the nomination, around the same percentage of voters are flipping to Donald Trump. I really can't see Donald Trump losing. I mean, look, he's about to be acquitted in the impeachment trial. In fact, some Democrats might even support him and vote to acquit. And if the Democrats are fractured, with both sides threatening to vote for Trump unless their side wins, no matter what happens, Trump's getting those votes. Now it gets, I guess, a bit worse. We have another story from BuzzFeed because Andrew Yang voters are even expressing they won't vote at all unless Yang gets the nomination. So I know we've talked about the Democratic Civil War in the past, but today let's focus on the new Never Bernie movement and how moderate Democrats are going to join their Bernie or bust bros from back in 2016 in voting for the Orange Man. Before we get started, however, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's several ways you can give. There's a PayPal option, a physical address, but of course, the best thing you can do is share this video. At this point, I don't really know why, because I don't think we're going to break any echo chambers. There's a lot of people who are absolutely interested in listening to what I have to say, even if they disagree. And there are a lot of people who just don't want to hear it. They want to believe that Bernie Sanders is the only path forward. They say this, the progressives, that if the Democrats go for a centrist corporate type like Hillary Clinton, they will lose once again. I think that's true. But then the centrist Democrat corporate types say, if you vote for a socialist, you will lose. And that's also true. I think it's fair to say this story about Never Bernie should be the proof no matter what happens, the Democrats are going to lose. Now, I know. You know, it's a bit, I don't want to make any hard predictions because, hey, everybody thought Hillary was going to win and Trump was going to lose. Who knows? That could happen now. Perhaps a lot of people really, really hate the Orange Man, or the media narrative has been so effective, they're actually going to vote against them. And come 2020, despite the amazing economy and the amount of money everybody's making, they might vote to, against Trump, whoever it is. Because as the saying goes, vote blue no matter who. But you know what the big problem is? I covered this yesterday. The Democrats are cheating anyway, so who cares? I'm not interested in playing the game. And vote blue no matter who, it's actually not working. They're going to vote red if it's not their candidate, be it a moderate or Bernie. Let's read the story from the New York Post. They say, the Never Bernie apocalypse is coming. Dem Insiders warn. These Democrats are feeling burned out. Democratic donors and party insiders are warning that large swaths of their voters could stay home or even defect to Trump if Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders snags the nomination. Quote, I'll still put a Bernie Sanders bumper sticker on my car, but a lot of people won't, said Jim Kessler, executive vice president for policy at Third Way, a Democratic think tank not aligned with any candidate. They'll say, I don't like Donald Trump, but I don't like Sanders either. We survived 4 years of Trump. Maybe we'll survive another 4 years. They'll stay home, vote third party, or vote for Trump. And that's a quote. An insider working with Mike Bloomberg's campaign agreed. I think that there is a very real Never Bernie sentiment amongst both the donor class and moderate centrist Democrats, or what I would call regular Democrats. Bloomberg and Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden, who represent the heart and soul of the party, their supporters are not as apt to support someone like Bernie. After an October heart attack left many assuming Sanders' candidacy was DOA, the 78-year-old socialist has bounced back. A new Iowa State University poll found 24% of Iowa voters behind him, with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren at 19, former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Buttigieg at 17, and Biden at 15. In New Hampshire, another recent poll gave Sanders a 15-point lead. This has led to alarm bells among establishment Democrats, one of whom said Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party blowout in England to Boris Johnson was a warning shot. Among insiders, there is near universal belief that Sanders' card-carrying socialist credentials could create enormous problems with suburban and older voters, both of whom tend to be wealthier than the general population. While millennials are evenly split between socialism or capitalism, only 39% of Generation Xers and 32% of baby boomers held favorable views of socialism, according to a November 2019 Gallup poll. We can come back to this, but I know many people on the left have probably already brought up the point. Yeah, Tim, but if Bernie or bust happened and between 12 to 18% of Bernie supporters went to Trump, they'll certainly come back to Bernie in 2020, right? Thus negating any moderate losses. No, I wouldn't predict so. You know why? The people that switched from Bernie to Trump did it for a couple reasons. Some people, it was watch the world burn, but admittedly that was small. As apparently in a leaked video, Trump said it was about trade. That's right. Many Bernie Sanders supporters were concerned about trade agreements and jobs in manufacturing, something that Bernie supported. Today, Bernie Sanders is substantially more pro-immigration, says he will issue a moratorium on deportations and decriminalize border crossings, something that he wasn't for in the past. But more importantly, these people who are concerned about the economy, who voted for Trump, have no reason to now vote for Bernie when Trump has fulfilled his goal in boosting the economy. If that's the case, they're probably happy where they are. And you will see very few people defect from Trump to Bernie Sanders because, for the most part, Trump won. So why would that be the case? But let me show you the story from November, from the New York Times, the upshot. We're now going to talk about the Obama voters. And there's a really interesting point to be made that debunks a lot of the leftist narrative. Surprise, surprise, Trump's voters, Trump supporters, they're not bigots. And here's the proof. 2/3 of battleground state voters who chose Trump in 2016 but selected Democrats in the midterms say they will return to the president next year. Now, I know I said to get to the proof. That's the next story. I'm starting with this to show you. Many people voted for Trump. 2/3 of them, many people voted for Trump in 2016. A large portion then selected a Democrat in the midterms, giving the House impeachment powers, which led us to this, pending acquittal, a waste of everyone's time. 2/3 of these people are returning to the president. So they lost what little power they had because they campaigned upon elect us and we will work past the partisan nonsense and bickering and actually get stuff done. What did they do? They complained about the Orange Man the entire time. Scandal, 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 impeachment, impeachment, and finally acquittal. Why vote for them again? The president has been, well, to a certain degree, to many of his supporters, exonerated. Acquittal means found to be not guilty. They didn't prove their case. But here's the big evidence about Trump's base. There is actually a Wikipedia article for the Obama Trump voters. The only thing I really want to show you is this. They say they expressed skepticism of congressional Republicans and a desire to change the status quo. Approximately 9.4% of Obama voters voted for Trump in 2016. Why would those people switch to a socialist? They wouldn't. Many of these people are going to stick with Trump because Trump delivered. But let's talk about the people slightly to the left of them. Holdovers, who maybe didn't vote for anybody. These are the moderate voters who are probably now deciding, you know what? They're going to vote for Trump. Because I had a conversation with someone recently, a local here in my Philadelphia suburb, South Jersey area, who said they didn't vote in 2016 and didn't care. But based on everything that's happened with the smears, the lies, and the scandals, what they keep doing to that guy, they said, they're thinking about actually voting for him now. So now uninitiated people are just so sick and tired of the Democrats' scandal-ridden news story. They're saying, you know what? They deserve it. But here we can see that you had about 10% of Obama's voters voting for Trump. And you might say, yeah, but Tim, so what? So 10% of Trump's base isn't, bigoted or whatever? No, listen, half the country supported the president. Okay, a little bit less than, well, I shouldn't say half, right? But it was 63 million people, so half of the voters, a little bit less than half the voters. Many of these people believed in trade. The Bernie or bust voters who switched to Trump were doing it mostly for trade and immigration. Trump delivered. It had nothing to do with race. They voted for Obama in the past. Check out this news story from Andrew Yang. So kind of what I'm getting at here, what I'm trying to show you is every single one of these candidates is a blank or bust. And we've talked about it before, but now I think it's hilarious to see a Never Bernie movement mirroring the Never Trump movement. This story fascinated me from BuzzFeed News. It says, who is the Yang gang's second choice? His diehard supporters aren't sure they have one. The Iowa caucus system allows for supporters to pick a second choice if their candidate doesn't clear a 15% viability threshold. There's a big potential for us not to move anywhere, said one Yang supporter. And they elaborate this, saying, in interviews with over a dozen Yang supporters across Iowa in the final days before Monday's caucuses, it was clear that Yang supporters' wide range of political ideologies has made it hard for them to coalesce behind a particular candidate who they support during a realignment vote if Yang doesn't reach the viability threshold, which is 15%. Or if they'd even continue voting for a Democrat in the caucus and in the general election at all. They actually say, so here's one of the quotes. He's not a politician. He's a normal person like us. Yang's argument for automation, AI, is doing to society his argument for what AI is doing to society really spoke to me and made a lot of sense. If Yang doesn't meet the threshold at their caucus site, they're not decided on what to do. There's a big potential for us not to move anywhere. It's just really something I'd have to feel on the night, I think. There's other candidates I like. Here's another one. There's nobody that really compares to Yang, Dina said. Though Chris likes Bernie Sanders, he doesn't think his plans are viable and said he probably wouldn't move to Sanders during the caucus process and doesn't expect him to be viable at the caucus site. Yang has hinted that his supporters might gravitate toward the Sanders campaign, telling a Bloomberg News roundtable last week there's a lot of overlap in support, but he admitted on Sunday that he did not know where his supporters would end up. We have a very, very diverse group of supporters. I can't speak of where they would head, Yang said. I do have a sense that many of them have supported Bernie in the past, but many of them supported President Trump, and they might just leave. Yang added that his campaign doesn't currently have plans to direct his supporters to support a particular candidate during a realignment vote. Well, it may be that Yang's voters go to Bernie, but we can see that at least for the most part, they're not entirely convinced they would stay at all. You have a hard split. Go to the Yang subreddit, and what do we see? It's Yang or bust, baby. It's Bernie or bust, baby. It's Biden or bust, I guess. Man, there really is no unity within the Democratic Party at all. So much so that vote blue no matter who falls on deaf ears. And the only people really saying it are resistance establishment Democrats who just hate Donald Trump. Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough for the Democrats to actually win. I got to say, the paradox is astounding. Here's a story from 2017. They basically said about 1 in 10 of of Bernie Sanders supporters voted for Trump. As you can see, it doesn't matter who gets the nomination. There are going to be a large quantity of defectors to Trump, plain and simple. And I think that means Trump is going to win better than most people even predicted. Now, a lot of people are saying Trump's going to get, 40 states or 45 states. So I don't know about that. Some people are saying he's going to get 70 million people. I'll tell you what, if Yang's base flips to Trump, if Bernie's base flips to Trump, it's a very confusing prospect, I must say. And it stands to reason those, blank or bust voters, their second choice is Donald Trump. So as much as someone might really like Bernie, they think Trump is better than Yang. Someone might like Yang, they think Trump is better than Bernie. Somebody might like Buttigieg or Biden, but they think Trump is better than Bernie or Yang or Tulsi or whoever else. That's the weirdest thing to me, but apparently it's what's going to happen. Now, one of the things that's happened recently, which we'll see, we'll see what happens come Wednesday, I believe. The Los Angeles Times reports some Democrats might vote to acquit Trump. I'll tell you what, the impeachment process was so awful that it might actually result in not just Democrat defectors in the House, but Democrat defectors in the Senate. I mean, that's a huge win for Donald Trump. This establishment play to smear and slander Trump the whole time has been meaningless to most Americans, and it's failed every step of the way. In fact, the process cost the Democrats Jeff Van Drew, who is now a proud Republican. So what do we end up seeing in the polls? GOP is fired up for 2020 and the Democrats are anxious. This is a poll that came out a few days ago from the AP. The Democrats are worried, and rightly so, because I'm just going to say it. I said it before. I'll say it again. There is no Democratic Party anymore. And I really do mean it. I think it ended with Hillary Clinton or with the rise of Bernie Sanders, however you want to say it. But you can't compare Andrew Yang to Biden or Bernie to Klobuchar. They're just not in the same realm. There is no unifying principle that brings Democrats together. Thus, it's just a name. It's a brand that means not Republican. That's all it means. If I said to you, to someone, this is what I get these complaints. They're like, Tim, When you say Democrats, it's not fair because you should say this. It's like, dude, I can't fit the word establishment Democrat on a thumbnail. It's massive, but I do try to say leftist Democrats when I can. The reality is, if I said to you Democrat, what do you envision? Do you think of Joe Biden or do you think of Bernie Sanders? Do you think of Antifa or do you think of some, moderate dude wearing a suit walking around with a tie on? There's no real way to describe based on the word Democrat anymore. But in fact, when you say the word Republican, you have a general idea. Now, of course, the Republicans have their factions as well, but they're all waving Trump flags. All of them. Okay, not all. 90% of them are waving Trump flags. You know what they're kind of into. When you look at these graphs about manifesto or ideology, they're mostly unified. When you look at the moderate Democrats, they're more likely to be for Trump. That's why I think it may be true that Trump really does get these moderate voters. And I think one of the big reasons why that's going to happen is potentially, well, the far left is gaining support, right? Bernie Sanders is leading in the polls, but he's not strong enough to even stand up for himself. And they're being bullied by the likes of Hillary Clinton. So ultimately what ends up happening is, as we know, it doesn't matter who gets the nomination, be it Biden or Bernie, both factions are willing to defect to Trump, which I think is just weird. It's like, you won't give me Bernie? Well, then fine, Trump it is. And then they're like, if you don't give me Biden, then fine, Trump it is. Like, okay, why don't you just go vote for Trump, everybody? But what I end up seeing is something truly fascinating, why the far left can't win, why the moderates will probably strong-arm the nomination and then see a bunch of defectors to Trump. This is a story we already talked about. Hillary Clinton slams Bernie Sanders for not working to unite Democrats in 2016. Or how about this story? Nobody likes him. Hillary Clinton reignites feud with Bernie after everything Bernie did for Hillary. And what did Bernie do? Nothing. Did he stand up for himself? No. So how could he possibly win? How could he possibly be a figure that people want to stand behind? The far left Democrats, the progressive Democrats, do not have the strength to actually win. Because when Hillary Clinton pulled out all the stops to go after Tulsi Gabbard, who I get it, fine. Many of them, they hate Tulsi anyway, fine. But she went after Bernie too. What did we see? Well, the first, Rasheda Tlaib said, I will boo Hillary Clinton. And then she apologized and bent the knee. Well, some people say it wasn't a real apology. But I find it fascinating that the progressive Democrats, for all of the chaos they've brought to the Democrats, to the establishment, when Hillary Clinton smears and defames and lies and does whatever she wants, they don't do anything. Nobody tells her to be quiet. Nobody tells her to embrace party unity. They just say, oh, there goes Hillary Clinton again. And then when they boo her for it, they get yelled at. Rasheda Tlaib issues an apology because they don't have the strength to tell them to stop. I think this is why ultimately you will see no unity there. Well, actually, hold on. This is actually evidence to an extent that there may be, that they're being forced in line to bend the knee to Hillary Clinton and the moderates. And the Never Bernie message is probably a part of that. The Democrats are desperately trying to coalesce, and they're doing it by force. It won't work. It really, really won't. Bernie or bust, Biden or bust, whatever you want to call it, it's going to happen again. But I don't know what, I don't necessarily know what we can or can't predict. But I certainly think it's fair to point out this story from just the other day. We can lose this election. What top Democrats fear could go wrong in 2020. Democrats worry that a bloody drawn-out primary, candidates fighting each other, running out of money, and failing to attract swing voters could cost them the election. So, look, I'm not gonna drag this story out because you get the point. But I will add a couple things. Just to wrap up, I might do a longer. I don't think this next story really deserves a longer segment. Just something in passing. From the Free Beacon, Bernie leads 2020 field in private jet spending. Yeah, okay. I don't trust any of these politicians. I don't think they actually care about what they're claiming they care about. At the very least, you take into consideration this story from Bernie, and what do you get? You get a look at 4 years of Donald Trump. Did Trump get everything done that he said he would? Technically not. Technically, maybe. Trump says he fulfilled more promises than he kept more promises than he even made, which makes no sense and made his supporters laugh. But I'll tell you this. You take a look at Bernie Sanders, who talks about the Green New Deal and he has AOC, but then he flies around in private jets. And people are going to say, I'm not sure I trust that guy. You take a look at where he was on immigration in 2015. You take a look where he's at now. People are going to say, I don't trust that guy. You take a look at the 4 years of Donald Trump, the economy doing better. Illegal immigration is down. The wall, I'm doing air quotes because it's some kind of a wall, is being built. It's the bollard fencing. So they can take a look at Trump and say, you know what? He's at least got some of it done. But Bernie Sanders is a hypocrite. And who wants Joe Biden? Okay, they pull for him, but I don't think anyone's actually really paying attention. But of course, as always, I must try to be as balanced as I can, because it wouldn't be fair to just claim it's only going to be Democrats defecting to Trump. The reality is, following the Senate vote to deny witnesses, a lot of people started coming out, freaking out, claiming democracy is over and the end is nigh. And I'll tell you what, you might want to mock Bill Maher for saying he might cry, sure, but that might actually scare a lot of people. I mean, this extreme rhetoric might have people truly worried, and they may actually flip come 2020. Never Trump Republican Bill Kristol comes out of the political closet and declares he's a Democrat for now. They've gone beyond Never Trump. The Never Trumpers are now officially stating they're just literal Democrats. They're Democrats now. Okay. Well, that's bad news for Trump to an extent, but these people were never with him in the first place. It is to an extent good news for the Democrats that they're going to get some people, but I'm not convinced that your average Democrat is going to be enthused about lifelong Republicans now joining their party. Something weird is happening, isn't it? Like, look, I grew up as a Democrat. I'm not excited to call Bill Kristol an ally. I'm like, that's kind of weird. No, it shows you that whatever the Democratic Party is today, it's literally not a thing. It's just a name only. I'll say it again. It basically just means not Republican, and that's about it. So, Never Bernie. Will the Never Bernie voters officially come out as Republican? In fact, many have. Some people say, there's a personality named Jack Murphy, who I've mentioned before. He calls it Democrat to deplorable. That flip happened in 2016. I know a lot of people who now call themselves conservatives or Republican that used to be Democrat. The shift seems to be happening in the other way. But these Never Trumpers, for some reason, desperately tried to hold on to the Republican Party. I know a lot of people point the finger at me because I used to be very much, in line with the Democratic Party. But you're probably never going to hear anything close to that from me because I would rather just be an ambivalent centrist and avoid all of the nonsense. But I'll tell you what, I do find it funny when the left points the finger and calls me right-winger conservative, and then people on the right call me they call me a leftist. I don't understand why anyone thinks I should be an example of either side for anybody because I'm a weirdo. I don't know. All I know is I think everybody's nuts. I think it's fair to say, if it's true, it's true. The Democrats are losing, plain and simple. Trump is going to win. That's not a Republican talking point or position. It's literally happening. So if some Never Trumpers who didn't vote for Trump in the first place are going to now call themselves Democrats when they literally, they basically were, then so be it. And maybe the Democratic Party really just is a big tent for everybody. It doesn't seem to work well for the actual voters who are threatening to leave. So let me just wrap this up as to why I thought this was important. Plain and simple. If Bernie wins, moderates vote Trump. If a moderate wins, Bernie voters vote Trump. What a weird and twisted world. Not everybody, okay? Not everybody. Not every Bernie voter. I'm saying about 10% of each side is going to defect if the other side wins. It's just the weirdest thing to me. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe you both agree that Trump is the next best choice and 20% should just vote for the guy, I guess. I think that's going to happen. We'll see, though. It's going to be a wild ride. Super Bowl Sunday. I hope you go watch some football, have some chips, or do whatever. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews, and I will see you all there.